WFRV TV Local 5, your local election headquarters. This is Newsmaker Sunday with your host, Tom Zaleski.
Good morning. Welcome to Newsmaker Sunday. I'm Tom Zaleski. Two elections are in our future here in Wisconsin, the August 11th primary election and the November 3rd presidential election. However, many are still wondering if these upcoming elections could experience the same problems that we had back in April. Let's go back to April. The Wisconsin Supreme Court blocked the extension of absentee voting. Thousands of Wisconsinites braved long lines and the threat of being exposed to COVID-19 to exercise their right to vote. But with the consolidation of polling locations plus some last-minute changes, some northeast Wisconsin cities experienced long waits. Local 5's Rhonda Fox talked to both Green Bay and Appleton, where they had much different experiences.
It's a tale of two cities of sorts. In Appleton, it was the better of times. Despite concerns about COVID, voters had little to no wait in lines. Appleton kept all 15 of their polling places open, which kept lines short.
For the most part, everybody seems to be pretty understanding of the circumstance and very cooperative. So that's been good. I mean, it hasn't been as busy as past elections, which I guess you can expect.
In Green Bay, it was the worst of times for voters. There were two polling places in Green Bay. At Green Bay East High School, voters faced long lines. At Green Bay West High School, voters faced even longer lines.
Then that was about 4 hours.
Voting lines wrapped around.
At this point, about a full hour.
And around.
I think the people online, they knew people down the line, up the line. I saw several neighbors that turned around and went back home, and some neighbors just stuck it out.
Voters who stuck it out say they waited up to 4 hours at Green Bay West High School and were obviously frustrated.
So this is just kind of ridiculous because this is the first time I've seen something this long. I'm usually in and out. I vote and it's over with. And here where we might have to wait 4 hours, 5 hours, it's honestly a little ridiculous to me.
Thank you, Rhonda. We now have the privilege of being joined by Megan Wolf, the Wisconsin Election Commission's administrator. Megan, thanks so much for taking time joining us today. As the story just showed and as you heard, some of the elections went well in some towns, others didn't go so well. In your mind, in your view, what was the difference between those cities that had the problems and those cities that met with success on election day?
Well, one thing that people might not realize is that here in the state of Wisconsin, we run elections at the municipal level. So that means each city, town, and village, and there are 1,850 of them, have the jurisdiction authority to be able to administer their elections within the parameters of the law. And so with the large volumes of uncertainty surrounding the April election, so we were the first and only state to have an election in the midst of a stay-at-home order. Ballots went out for the April 7th election, at the end of February. And so we were in the midst of an active election when all of this started to happen. And so jurisdictions had to quickly adjust their approach in light of the fact that so many people were voting by absentee ballots by mail. So our state went from about 6% of voters casting their absentee ballot by mail to over 60% in April. And this happened literally overnight. And so they had to adjust where they put their resources, their time, and their limited staff in order to accomplish all the three types of statutory voting that are mandated under the law. And so you'll see in some of those differences, those are different resource levels, different decisions that were made by each of those 1,850 jurisdictions.
Megan, as you well know, the National Guard was utilized throughout the state. In your view, how did that go? Was that successful?
It was an incredible experience. It's something where we're very fortunate that the Guard was able to step in their role for our state is to step in cases of an emergency. And so all other options had to be leveraged first to try to find enough poll workers. And upon that not being successful, clerks still not having enough poll workers to be able to open their polling places in accordance with the statutory mandate in terms of how many poll workers you need to have, being able to rely on them as an emergency backup was truly incredible. These were people serving in plain clothes in their community of residence. So these were voters, neighbors, friends, families that live in their community and also serve as part of the Guard. And so I think it was a really remarkable experience because from the clerk side, they felt incredibly supported during a very, very challenging time. And from a voter side, again, these were their neighbors, their friends, their family that were serving as poll workers, serving in another way their communities in addition to being in the Guard. And so we heard nothing but positive comments from that experience, and we're really hopeful it will also lead to a new pool of poll workers that some of those Guard members have expressed wanting to serve in their own civilian capacity as a poll worker in the future.
So what about August and then November? Do we see in the upcoming elections the National Guard being used once again?
Well, again, the National Guard is there for emergencies. So, we don't know what emergencies they might be called out for when we get later into the year. But we continue to have that relationship with them. Only the governor can put out the order for the Guard to be utilized in these cases. And again, we have to continue to have constant communication with each of those 1,850 city, town, and village clerks to make sure that they have the staffing resources they need to provide them with other tools, and to encourage all of our fellow Wisconsinites to consider serving as poll workers. And that's really the first course that we have to take. We all have to find a way to make sure that our municipalities have what they need to run their August and their November elections. And we hope that those efforts will be fruitful and that we'll be able to find a poll worker pool that is reliable for the August and, of course, the November election, and that we won't have to utilize the Guard, that we'll be able to find other Wisconsinites that are willing to step up.
When we come back, we continue our conversation with Megan Wolf from the Wisconsin Elections Commission, so please stay with us.